Hey friends, Ash here. Welcome back to Gents. Today we're taking a look at a new fragrance from the house of Amouage, and the fragrance is King Blue, more specifically Opus 15. King Blue. So this was sent to me by the people of Amouage, so shout out to Amouage, thanks for that. I'll link it in the description below. You can also find Amouage fragrances at twistedlily.com, luckyscent.com. Twisted Lily, Gents 10% off. Lucky Scent 2023, Gents 10% off until the end of August. That code wasn't working, but now it is. And I will also link this at Amouage's website as well in the description. So this is the new fragrance in their library collection of fragrances. Actually, one of the perfumers of this fragrance is the perfumer that did my fragrance, Terra Nova, which is right here. Yay. Who's nominated for Men's Fragrance Release of the Year Prestige and lost, but still made it to the finals. It was pretty good. It beat out, I think it was 96 other fragrances to make it there. I'm proud. Perfumer I'm talking about is Hamid Muradi Kashani. He was not the only perfumer here. Also, Alexis Grujan was one of the perfumers, so the two of them. It has not been opened yet. I'm not wearing a fragrance today, so I guess this will be my fragrance of the day, my scent of the day. Let's go ahead and open it up first. Take a look at the presentation. Amouage has changed up their box style. So they've got this newer, I guess more modern looking style. And guys, let me know if you like this new style, if you prefer this or the older style where it had just the box where you'd lift it open like that and the bottle was sitting down inside. I'm not sure which one I'm partial to. I mean, this one looks pretty nice. So on the front of the slipcover here, it says Amouage Opus 15 King Blue. On one side, you have the name of the house and fragrance once again. And on the other side, you have the size and concentration along with the badge code. So it's an eau de parfum 100 ml size. On the back, you have the name of the fragrance, the perfumer, and a description with the notes. The union of the real and the unreal, the clashing of the impossible and the mundane, the surrealistic manifest that life is never truly what it seems to be. The meeting of fire and nightshade, of juicy mandarin, grandiose amber, and somber oud. King Blue is an honoric, I screwed that up, didn't I? Wood supreme. Top notes of mandarin, blackcurrant, pink pepper, mid of frankincense and amber, base of sandalwood, oak wood, patchouli, oud silver, and leather. So let's go ahead and slide this off. And here we have the box. On the top, it says Amouage, the Gift of Kings. It says the Gift of Kings on the side as well. You have a little QR code up top letting you know it's a genuine Amouage product. And on the back, it says Homage. It's up like so, and there's the bottle. So it's your typical Amouage bottle style, has a really cool matte finish to it. You got the name of the house and fragrance on the front there, nothing on the back. On the bottom, you have your size and concentration and your badge code, and then the cap is magnetic. Oh. So I've always loved the way that Amouage bottles look. I think they're really nice, really classy looking. The new library collection, kind of wish that they had different colors for each fragrance, but that's because I'm a simple child and color make me happy. So when I see different colored bottles, I can just immediately go, oh, that's that one, that's that one, that's that one, that's that one, based off the color scheme and everything. With these, they all kind of run together for the most part. So what I'm gonna do is spray it on the tester strip first and then on my skin. That way I can see if there's a little difference between the two or not. Obviously, name of the fragrance, King Blue. This is supposed to be a fragrance that would kind of play in that blue fragrance realm, but it's one that's supposed to subvert expectations a bit and change as it dries down. Oh, okay. The oud actually comes through off the tester strip pretty much right away. It is fresh, a fresh oud, but yeah, it has that slight, very slight tinge of like funk to it, like a little bit of funky wood. Let's move this over here so I can see that note breakdown. Yeah, a bit of citrus in there, fresh spice, but that oud shines through, takes center stage right away. So while it is fresh, it's maybe not what I was expecting off the top, with it being named King Blue. I was expecting more of like a large blue push right there off the top, I guess without as much of the oud noticeable, which is not a bad thing, just not what I was expecting based off of, I guess, the name and note breakdown and everything, but maybe I should have been expecting that, truly. Let's go ahead and spray it on skin, see if it's a bit different there, see if things come through a little bit differently. Let that settle for a second. Patience, patience. Okay, you still get the oud off skin, but you definitely get more of the fruits. So you get the citrus, you get the black currant, so you get a little balance there. You get a touch of that tartness. It doesn't smell like a designer blue. So if anybody was worried that this is going to be more, I guess, in the Elysium realm, it's not really quite there. Nothing against Elysium. It's just that is like taking a designer blue fragrance in style and then upping the quality and everything, but you still keep that same general backbone, the same playing field that you're going for, that designer type of blue. With that oud still sneaking and snaking through in the opening here, it removes it from that designer realm a bit more. It places it firmly into a niche style of scent. Now that being said, it's not really a challenging fragrance, so don't worry about, you know, the oud making it something that's unwearable, because that freshness off the top here does help round that off a lot, but it still definitely has that oud being quite noticeable even early on off skin. Like I said, not as much as off the strip, but it's still there. And it still has that kind of animalic wrinkle to it. So around the edges, a little bit of that, just a faint barnyard touch. You know, you're not quite in the barnyard, but you're standing away from it a bit and the doors are open and the wind is wafting through and you're catching just like a little bit of that funk coming in off the breeze. Just a faint touch, but it's there. And so for some people, that's gonna make this more interesting and be like, oh, this is like a blue fragrance with a little bit of an edge. And for other people, you're gonna be like, but if I wanna wear a blue fragrance, why would I wear this? You know, I could wear something else that doesn't have anything that's a little bit, yeah. What's that? Anything that's a little bit potentially slightly divisive. As far as I would go with the oud here in the opening, very, very, very slightly potentially divisive if you just absolutely hate the note. It's changing though. Yeah, it's starting to sag out of the opening pretty quickly. So that citrus, black currant that's kind of dying away here, you know, 10 minutes in or so, that's taking a step to the background. The leather coming up a little bit more now, bit of that incense coming along, which Amouage is really well known for fragrances utilizing incense. The oud is still kind of where it was in the beginning. You know, it's not coming up and demanding the spotlight yet. It's still kind of mingling there. You can still pick it up, but the leather is coming in more strongly as the fragrance is drying here. Not so much a blue fragrance, I would say. I think that as it dries down, it's smelling a little bit more cohesive. As it dries down, again, first time I've smelled it. So this is one of those things where you can sometimes go back and wear it a second time, third time, fourth time, and you'll just be like my first impressions were crap, you know? Like you catch on to different things as you wear the fragrance, but off the first sniff, it reminded me of like something Mancera might do. And I don't mean that as a put down or as a negative, but just the way that the oud is coming across with like these other fresher notes, but the oud is still there. It reminds me of like, oh, okay, this is kind of in Mancera's ballpark, right? They've got a lot of fragrances kind of in that wheelhouse. So it's like something that they could do and you'd be like, oh, that makes sense. As it's drying down, it's becoming something more unique to me in a way. I don't think that this is going to appeal to people as much who are looking for the next blue hype beast or whatever, because this is doing its own deal. And even though the name is King Blue, it's not that blue. So as it dries down, it becomes like a semi-fresh, very semi-fresh leather with that incense smoke kind of wafting in, that oud lingering again, but not very animalic, just a hint, a smidge, a dash. And actually some of the currant feels like it's carrying over a little bit in the background. So you still pick up a little bit of that black currant as it goes along, which is actually nice. It's helping provide kind of a counterpoint to the heavier notes. I'm gonna let this dry down really quickly and then come back and just kind of do a wrap up on my first impressions here of King Blue. So stick with me, I'll be back in like 2 seconds, magic of editing. So I sprayed the opening of this on again, and it's one of those deals where I think it needs to grow on you a little bit. It's got some of that funky oud, like I talked about before the first time I sprayed it, like a little bit skunky, funky oudiness going on with the fruitiness. Now, the second time I sprayed it on in the opening, I did get a little bit of a better blend, it felt like, because I kind of knew what was coming. So it smelled a little bit more appealing, but still definitely something that needs to grow on you, I feel like, or will for a majority of people. Now the name King Blue, does it really smell like a blue fragrance? No, to me it does not. Because when you're talking blue fragrances, generally talking things like Elysium, like I talked about before, Sauvage, Bleu de Chanel, Dylan Blue, you know, all that stuff, maybe even Parfum de Marly Sedley, something like that, or Montebaco Verano from Ormond Jane, you know, different fragrances like that. You could lump them into a blue fragrance and pretty much everybody's going to agree, like, yeah, that one's a blue fragrance, that one is also, that one is also, that one is also. So when you take that into account, that style, that family of fragrance, does this slot in with those? No, to me it does not. So if you were thinking or hoping that this was going to be like a big Amouage blue fragrance beast that was going to come out and just change up the game completely, it's not that to me. Different style of fragrance, doesn't really play in the same ballpark as those other ones. People aren't going to be cross-shopping this with that, for example. Like if you go to a store and you say, hey, I'm looking for something, you know, really easy to wear, rare, great opening, very versatile, people-pleasing, all season round type of fragrance. You could see somebody saying, oh, you know, here's this, here's this, here's this. This is not gonna get cross-shopped with those. So is it truly the king of blues? To me, no, it's not. That's not what this is. Now, as it dries down, it smells a lot better to me. I really like the mid, really like the dry down. You get more woods that come out, more smokiness, so you get this nice oak wood mixing with the incense and the leather there as well. The oud actually is more prominent in that kind of funky aspect, that light funk that I talked about before. Sounds funny, like I'm talking about kind of like a jazz song or something with a light funk to it, but that little bit of funk that it has in the opening, that doesn't really carry over too much into the dry down. It actually becomes more a little smoky, a little woody. For a time, remnants of the fruit from the opening is there as you head through the mid, and that gradually fades out. You get amber in there as well. It adds just a little hint of warmth, a little bit of sweetness. And when you hear that this fragrance, like if you've never smelled it, when you hear it has amber, a grandiose amber and all these woods, and then citrus and black currant in the opening, and it's supposed to be the king blue, you probably get this image in your mind, or at least I did, where it's like a big, powerful amber woody base, very modern amber woodiness, and then the citrus off the top. It's probably just gonna be really appealing, easy to wear, right? No, completely different, just whoosh. That's not this at all. So I think a little bit of confusion with the name. I know for me, when I read about this initially, hadn't smelled it yet, I was thinking it was gonna be like a competitor to some of those other blue fragrances, but this is doing its own deal. So yeah, the opening, still not in love with that. It's okay, but you know, I'm not really in love with it. Like I said, as it dries down, it gets a lot better. Really enjoy the mid, really enjoy the dry down. Is it a big, versatile, compliment beast, you know, year-round kind of fragrance? To me, no. This is more fall and winter time, more of an evening type of scent. It does harken back a little bit more to like the style of fragrances that Amouage did in the past, so it's a little bit more like that. And I would say that for me on a personal level, especially again when it hits the mid and dry down, it's one of the best Amouage fragrance releases that I've smelled over the past few years at least. I think it's really solid actually. The price point is up there. I think it's $4.55 for a 100 ml size bottle, so it's pricey. I would not blind buy it unless $4.55 is nothing to you. And at that point, you're just, who cares, right? $4.55 is nothing to you, knock yourself out, man. Yeah, it's a lot of money though to most people. So if you're interested in the house or the fragrance, absolutely sample it. I do think it's worth sampling, but sample it first because that's a lot of coin to drop on a fragrance. And if you get that in and you're just not feeling it, that sucks. And you got to go through the whole hassle of like, whether you keep it or try to resell it and take a loss, blah, 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 blah. Just sample it first. But like I said, definitely worth sampling in my opinion, if you're a fan of this style of fragrance. And as far as performance goes, first time I've worn it. So I mean, take this with a grain of salt, big grain of salt, but it seems like the longevity is very good. Like I would expect, like you would expect from an Amouage release, it lasts a long time. Projection, it doesn't really scream. You know, it's not like a monster. It's not one of the strongest from the house, but it's pretty good. In comparison to normal fragrances out there, yeah, it's got above average projection. It projects quite well. But Amouage does have a reputation, so a lot of people are already going in expecting it to just instantly fill up a room, and it's a little bit more subtle than that. So above average, but not the strongest from the house. So there we go, Amouage King Blue. Maybe a little bit of a lost in translation, sort of, with the name itself and like the description when I originally read it, like I talked about, made it seem like it was going to be much more of this blue fragrance monster that kind of transitions into an oudy scent. That's what I was expecting, actually, based off of the This Week in Fragrance video that I did on it, that it would be like a bunch of blue fragrance and then turn into like a dark oud fragrance. And you'd be like, oh, look at that. Well, two different things put into one. It's crazy. Dogs, cats living together, it makes no sense. But instead, it's more like kind of a slightly funky oud off the top, mixing with some fruit. And then as it dries, smoky woods, leather, a bit of amber, and the oud actually kind of goes away as it dries instead of, yeah, it's kind of mixed up. So there we go, King Blue. I like it overall, but it is quite pricey and I wouldn't blind buy it. Thank you guys for hanging with me. If you smell this one, let me know what you think about it in the comments below. Stay safe out there and I'll see you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you later.